Douglas Drake of Shaker Life, and this is not a Schweppes commercial. These two bottles exemplify what's been happening to our city and to every family in this country. This bottle of tonic water, 79 cents, and this bottle, identical in size, 83 cents. Inflation is killing us. Most city costs are personnel related. Police department wages are not the highest in the county, though they're good. Police pensions, like fire department pension contributions, are up 47% in the last 5 years. Cement and other construction materials cost, in some cases, 200% more than they did 5 years ago. This rescue vehicle, the latest model, costs $45,000 without options. The last emergency squad cost only about $25,000. Garbage collection and other costs borne by the service department are higher. The public employees' retirement system contributions up 25% over 5 years ago. Service Director Bernie Wright tells us some of his department's problems with finance.
Some items which we would expect would increase quite highly has not turned out that way. Line marking paint in 1975 was $2.70 a gallon, and 1979 it was $2.85. One would expect that paint products would have increased more than that. One of the biggest increase is maintenance of vehicles, parts for the various trucks. Alternators in 1975, $63 a piece. In 1979, $102. Clutch disc, $45 up to $81. Pressure plates, which is part of the clutch assembly, from $50 up to $60. Truck washing soap from $71 a drum to $184 a drum. Cement from 2.5 a sack to 3 1/4 a sack. Those are just a few examples of increases, and there's many others. This does not even reflect the gasoline, oil, asphalt, which has gone up tremendously in the last 5 years.
Well, we could recite a number of material increases that we have experienced over the past 4 years that have risen far in excess of the rate of inflation. For example, and I think we all can relate to this, gasoline, which has increased at an average annual rate of 18%. Rock salt that we use in the wintertime has increased at a rate of about 18% also. We have pension fund increases at a rate of about 10%, workmen's compensation increases at a rate of about 12%. And I might mention during this period of time, for example, the police and fire fighters' wage increases approximated 7%. That's the average annual rate of growth for those two forces.
So in many areas, then, inflation and other costs have outstripped raises.
Absolutely. During that 4-year period, 75 through 79, the Consumer Price Index, which is the accepted measure of the rate of inflation, rose at an average annual rate of just slightly over 9%, while city operating expenditures increased at a rate of just about 8%. So we feel that we, in comparison with the Consumer Price Index, that we fared out very well.
Not only our department, probably most fire departments in Cuyahoga County are having the same problem, and we've done a lot of cutting back. Since 95% of our costs and operating costs relate to payroll and salaries, we have cut down on the number of men in the department by 10. We only have 70 men now as compared to 85 years ago. To compensate for that, we have done a lot of innovative improvements in equipment to operate as efficiently as we used to in the past with less manpower on the fire companies. We've got a large diameter hose. We have 2 new attack pumpers that have rearranged hose beds. We're looking at smaller diameter hose, which is more maneuverable, can be handled with less men and still give us the same amount of water we got out of the larger hose that we were using in the past.
So you're using technology to take up the gap?
Yes, we've tried in the last 5 years to use technology to take the place of manpower. And fire service is very manpower oriented.
Lieutenant, can you tell me, point out some of this equipment here, like what's in the orange box and what does it do?
Okay, this orange box is a portable telemetry EKG machine. It provides instant communications, radio communications with various hospitals throughout the area. We have the ability to communicate with doctors in the emergency room directly. We can send EKGs and transmit vital signs and vital statistics to the doctors, who in turn advise us on the type of medication that we will administer to the victim. This box essentially sends electrical impulses or radio waves to the rescue squad, which in turn repeats it, transmits it to the hospital, which is decoded in the form of an EKG or voice communications.
Is that an expensive piece of equipment?
This piece of equipment, the orange box plus the repeater in the squad, cost approximately $12,000.
And how much is the squad as a whole?
The basic squad itself, I think we received it about 3 months ago. It cost $45,000. That's without some of the equipment that you see. It's basic equipment.
Fast response time by police and fire department can frequently make the difference between life and death, or comfort or discomfort, for the citizens of Shaker Heights. Martin Green recently was in excruciating pain. His wife called for emergency medical service.
I was in bad pain and had to get down to University Hospital, and I called the Shaker Heights Fire Department and explained the situation to them, that wondering if they could have someone here to take me to university. They said that'd be no problem. They'd be out here right away. And I hung up the phone. I guess it was, what, about 2 minutes? We heard the sirens coming down the street. First we thought it must have been a fire. We couldn't imagine the time factor to be so quick. They were here and came up with, what, 3 men, honey? 3, I guess, 3 men, and stretcher. Excellent service carried me out and laid me in the hospital, in the ambulance, and had a police escort, just like in the movies, going down to the hospital. And the men were just excellent as far as the service, and that's why when I did get back home again, Elaine and I both felt we had to write a letter to the Shaker Heights Fire Department complimenting them on the excellent work.
Do you feel that that say if you were in some other city, you might not have received such excellent, quick service? Is that?
I honestly don't know, but I know in some of the suburbs around here, they will only take you, from what I understand, to a certain hospital, even though it isn't a hospital that you want to go to, but they will only take you to one in that vicinity. And it seems that Shaker will just take you to wherever you want to go, and there's no question at all about it.
Police Chief George Lamboy says the Shaker philosophy of quick response to citizen need is reflected in the police department as well as the fire department. Lamboy says his personnel are continually undergoing in-service training.
Well, we have an in-service training program, and the main one comes once every 2 years, but during the course of any 1 year, we have an in-service training program where we keep on stressing the fact we're not a Starsky and Hutch outfit, okay? It's just not to arrest felons. We're here to help people. For instance, a lot of our compliments come from the people that are disabled, the senior citizens, how our men handle them. A policeman's life can be described in many ways. It's anything from a bank call, a robbery in progress at a bank, to assisting an invalid in bed. And now, one is just as important as the other. The invalid in bed depends on your help, depends on your strength, depends on your know-how. The people in the bank, they depend on your strength and your force and your know-how. So you can't say one isn't more important than the other. If he's a citizen or she's a citizen, then we got to give him equal amount of service.
One way the police department has been able to save money has been through the civilianization of some jobs. Radio dispatchers are no longer uniformed police officers. This allows more policemen to be on the road more of the time to handle emergency calls.
520, 6723 and 24, 18900 Shaker, alarm.
The important thing about police department work is we are a public servant. And our job, besides being a public servant, is the factor of keeping peace and tranquility in a city. Now, for years and years, the city has operated with an organizational chart, and east and west would be the dividing line between the cities. We went ahead and we reorganized our police department where we have the same number of personnel, only more manpower at the peak hours, and which is a lot. In most cities, all you're going to find the chief saying all the time is, we need more men to cover the space. Well, I say, we got enough of the men, and we'll cover this space. However, you know, there are going to certain times, we went through almost a study and went back 5 years to find out just how we could reorganize and what we could do to get men on the road at peak hours. And this is a big money saver by overtime, by hiring process, by anything else. We are in a process of studying our civilian time as to see if we can expedite the work in different areas so we don't have to hire part-time or another girl or another clerk typist in the area.
So basically what you've done is utilized your personnel more efficiently.
Correct.
This resourcefulness of the police department is found reflected in other areas of the city. Finance Director Bill Schukert.
The guiding light, so to speak, as far as fiscal managing of the city affairs has been to be as resourceful as is possible in meeting the needs of the citizens through the delivery of a high quality package of city services. The city has continually reviewed and examined the various aspects of all city operations to determine how it might contain costs and yet not sacrifice the quality of the service that it is providing. In numerous instances, the city has been very successful. For example, we have been able in the fire department to reduce the number of firefighters without sacrificing the high-quality fire service that we have come to expect here in Shaker Heights, and at the same time expand the scope of the rescue squad service that has been provided for years until now that we, or into, I should say, a full-blown paramedic service that is perhaps the finest in the county. In addition, we have examined numerous operations in the police department that in the past had been performed by uniformed officers, and we found out that these duties were not necessary to be carried out by sworn police officers. Consequently, we civilianized a number of operations in the police department, and as a consequence, we were able to turn the uniform officers out into the street to provide service where the public has come to expect it. Other areas where the city has been able to contain costs have been in the area of the economies that it's been able to affect in reducing its consumption of gasoline, a very difficult feat to do for cities, especially when you consider that they are service-oriented, and everything they do is obviously, most of what they do anyhow, is involved in some kind of response, which obviously requires vehicles of many sizes and shapes. But we have been able to reduce our gasoline consumption by about 15% in the past 2 years. In addition, in examining the energy needs in our, or the energy usage in our building, we have been able to reduce considerably the energy that had been previously required to operate the city buildings.
Well, our fiscal management over the years has been to provide a high level of services to the people as economically as we possibly can. And to achieve that result, we have been fortunate in having some very excellent public career administrative people on the staff. We have a finance director and chief administrative officer with a wonderful background in public administration. And that's one of the excellent things about Shaker Heights government, is that most of the people here are career people. There is no politics involved. We do not have rapid turnover of personnel. We go out and try to find the best people we can for the job.
Point-of-sale housing inspection has at times been a controversial item here in Shaker Heights. Recently, Dr. David Sachs wrote a letter to City Hall and explained that he'd had excellent service and was really pleased because of his housing inspection.
Well, we took part in the usual point-of-sale inspection, and Mr. Vargo came out and performed a very thorough inspection of the house, and my wife and I were particularly concerned about defects he might uncover that could potentially be damaging either to ourselves or to our house, which is really our major financial investment right now. And he made a number of comments about the electrical system and also the requirement of sealing off this incinerator here. I believe that on his original visit he also mentioned that, that this gas line needed to be sealed off, but somehow in the midst of all of the tremendous construction work that started going on around here, I lost sight of that. So when he came out for his re-inspection visit, he was very pleased to see this all nicely bolted in, but he diligently followed through and noticed that this gas line was still intact and requested that we have that line sealed off. At about the same time, we started noticing the smell of gas out in our separate detached garage, and when we called a representative from East Ohio Gas out, he informed us that we had a major gas leak underground between the house and the garage, coming from this line right here, which comes off of the same line feeding the incinerator. So when we got somebody out here a few days later to disconnect this entire gas line that fed both the incinerator and the original heater out in the garage, which was never there when we were here, that took care of the problem. And as well as saving us from a potential gas explosion somewhere, we were delightfully surprised when we saw the following month that our East Ohio gas bill went from $45 to $15, and that was not just a function of the weather. But we anticipate that we'll be seeing substantial direct financial savings just from that one aspect alone, not to mention many of the other aspects that the inspection brought out in the house.
Shaker City services extend from housing inspection to the granting and overseeing of large-scale construction projects. One such project in which the city is engaged is the culvert on Doane Brook under Shaker Boulevard.
Doane Brook culvert under Shaker Boulevard between West Park and South Park was inspected and found that it needed rebuilding. We felt that we would tie it into the street improvement, and with the RTA improvement found that RTA would complete their improvement, and 2 years later or a year later we'd come back and have to tear it all out again. So we went to RTA and recommended that they include the culvert improvement under the tracks in their project. So they accepted it, and it is being completed under the RTA project. 75% is UMPTA funds, and 25% will be paid for by the city. When Shaker Boulevard is improved, and hopefully we get the M funds or the federal money for the street improvement, then the balance of the culvert will be replaced at that time. The culvert was inspected. It was found to be in a condition that it must be rebuilt as soon as possible, and for that reason we took the steps we were taking to get it replaced.
So we got a good deal then?
We did get a good deal, yes.
Shaker continues its supervision of construction projects, although there's a federal freeze on new construction probably until the fall. Meanwhile, because of inflation, and to maintain present level of services across the board in police, fire, and city services, Shaker Heights is asking voters for a tax increase.
Well, what we are talking about is a hike or an increase in the city income tax rate in an amount of 0.5%. If the increase is approved, we'll become the second community in the county to have an income tax rate of 2%. What it means in terms of additional tax dollars that the citizens will have to pay is, on a basis of $10,000 of earned annual income, it will mean an additional tax load of $50. That's $50 for each $10,000 of earned annual income.
Well, many of the jobs we have are still intensive personnel jobs that can't be done by machines.
What's the biggest problem to Shaker Heights in terms of money?
Well, the biggest problem, and it's a matter of some jealousy on my part when I talk to other mayors and look at the tax duplicates of some other cities. We don't have a large industrial base. We don't have a lot of office buildings that we can collect income tax from people who are working here. It is primarily a residential community, and so we don't have the high tax duplicate per capita that many other communities have. The result is that our tax load is a little heavier per capita simply because it's a residential community and people have always wanted it to be that way.
When you look around at other cities, and I know you're familiar with the operations of other suburbs, if you were rating Shaker for efficiency and you were doing it dispassionately and you had a scale of 1 to 10, what kind of a rating would you give us?
Well, it's hard to be objective. I have to be candid. I'm sure that we can learn better ways of doing things. We had a group of very knowledgeable citizens spend a year looking over our processes, and they made some good suggestions on better financial controls, better ways of budgeting. So there's always room for some improvement, but I think in terms of comparison, that we must be in the number 1 or number 2 class of municipalities in that regard. I don't know of any municipality around here that has a more efficient government than we have.
The City of Shaker Heights is sponsoring a series of public meetings so that citizens may ask questions and be informed about the proposed 0.5% increase in the income tax. The meetings are being held this week and next week. This week on Tuesday at the Boulevard School at 8 p.m., that's May 20th, and on Thursday, May 22nd at 8 p.m. at the Bertram Woods Branch Library. And again on next Wednesday on May 28th at 2 p.m. at the Adult Arts and Education Center, 16700 Van Aken Boulevard. We hope you found this program about Shaker finances informative. Thanks for watching Shaker Life. I'm Douglas Drake.